Welcome, global audience, to another session of the UPLIFT Pulse. This is our last pulse for 2020, and what an incredible year it has been. So many challenges on so many levels. But this weekend at the Pulse, we're taking a moment to just have a little moment of rest and pause. And the theme for this week's Pulse is looking back and looking forward. Just this moment of sitting with the global community to reflect on what's happened this year, all the challenges, and also all the breakthroughs, and what are we taking into the next year, moving forward into this new decade. So I'd like to introduce our panel, our presenters today. First off, I'd like to introduce Bhavani Lev. Welcome, Bhavani.
Namaste. Welcome to the whole global community and all of the panelists.
Bhavani is a great visionary. She is a visionary entrepreneur who has dedicated her life to uplifting consciousness, especially through business world. She is the co-founder of Organic India and also the co-founder of UPLIFT. Thank you, Bhavani. Welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Next, I'd like to introduce a dear friend, Bruce Lipton. Dr. Bruce, welcome.
Chris, I am so happy to be here with you and our audience. And our audience is very special, and I know that. So I'm thanking you and UPLIFT for this opportunity to be here with you and them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. Bruce Lipton is a world-renowned scientist and also a best-selling author who's dedicated his life to the study of epigenetics and how our thoughts and our belief systems can actually create our reality. So it's great to have you here with us today, Bruce.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Scarlett Lewis, an amazing visionary who is the founder of the Choose Love movement, which she founded after her son Jesse was killed at the Sandy Hook massacre. Scarlett, you're a true inspiration for us all. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's a huge honor to be here with everyone on the Global Unity team, as well as the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett. And last, we have Kristen Hoffman, an incredible musician and artist who we like to call a heartist, who brings the music, her devotion and her passion to uplifting people's hearts through music. And it's just incredible. So she's going to be joining us today and also sharing some of her music with us today. Welcome, Kristen.
Oh, such an honor to be here this evening, sending my love to all who are watching and just looking forward to diving in together.
Thank you, Kristen. And global audience, my name is Chris Decker, and I'd like to welcome you all for joining us this final pulse of 2020 with UPLIFT. And just for those of you who are joining for the first time, just to share again that the Pulse is not a one-way conversation that we're presenting to you. This is a global community moment where you get to interact with us and ask us questions. So if you're feeling inspired during this program, please join us on Facebook, send us some questions, and we'll be asking our panelists today just to share some thoughts and reflections. And if you're joining us within our Zoom conference, we can actually highlight you as well, so you can just actually show up to the global community and you can ask a question in real time. So this is a real-time discussion, very interactive and very emergent. Welcome you all. So it's quite a tradition with the Pulse, just to drop in, this is a moment where we all get to be together and also just drop in a little bit deeper together and take some time out from all the action and doing, and we like to say, and dropping into the being. So I'd like to invite Bhavani to please hold a little bit of a meditation with us and just take us a little bit deeper together before we start our session today. Thank you, Bhavani.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor and a pleasure. So, namaste. Namaste. And I just love for us all to take a moment to feel into what that word namaste means to us. It means the divine within ourselves, bows to the divine within the other, within all the other, within life, within the world. So let us just take a few deep breaths, feeling into that divine presence within us, breathing in. And as we breathe out, just relax into the love in your heart, the love that comes from the divine. And let us, as we keep breathing, breathe into and open our heart space, feeling the divine within us, as we're also aware of all the world being infused with life energy, divinity, sovereignty, miraculous beingness. And as you keep breathing, feel your whole body relax. Feel into what's happening in your body. Send every cell love and gratitude. See the center of every cell with a spark of light. How beautiful is the light in every cell in your body. And as you breathe in, feel the cells being nourished by this life force, the prana, the breath of life, feeding every cell so that the whole body is lit up, sparkling and bright, self-effulgent. And let us visualize together the whole planet sparkling with light. See the heavenly realms around the planet. Imagine them as sparkling light, dripping light, like snowflakes falling upon the earth, so that the whole earth is just accumulating this beautiful golden divine light, and the whole planet is glowing and breathing and sparkling and glimmering. And while we use imagination to see this, it is the truth. It is the truth that in every cell there is a spark of light, that we are made of light and that the whole world shines with light. Let us continue to hold this truth and see ourselves as glowing, radiant beings of light as we slowly take a few more deep breaths and come back into this that we're about to share together. So just take another few breaths. And again, namaste, and feel the divine within as we bow to the divine, which appears to be outside. All is divine. Namaste.
Thank you, Bhavani. Just resting in that for a moment. So precious. Thank you. So we'll begin our session today. Once again, the theme for today is looking back and looking forward. It's a very special theme, especially on this weekend, which is also the weekend of the solstice, the winter solstice in the north and summer, and winter solstice and summer solstice in the south. And the solstice is actually, the word solstice means when the sun stands still. So it's this moment of the still point between day and night, if you like, the still point between light and dark. So it's a perfect moment to just sit and reflect on this year 2020 and all the challenges and also the breakthroughs, and what have we learned as a global community? What are we taking forward? What has created the chaos, and what is actually creating this sense of unity that's actually also emerging right now on the planet in a strong, strong way. So we have some questions coming in already. So I'd like to thank the global audience for already, participating. And the first question is from Angelina from Sacramento. Hi, Angelina. Thanks for joining. When I look back on 2020, I see so much terror, fear, and chaos. But I also see many precious moments, especially with my family. How do we as a collective take the positive energy into the next decade? I'd like to, Scarlett, would you like to start this one? Would you like to answer this first question?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you for the question and comment. I agree. I think there's been a lot of difficulty, obviously, over the past year. But I think that the silver lining of being forced outside of our collective comfort zone that I believe that we were in is that we're now in our growth zone. So we are in a place where we've been able to pause. It's actually been a forced pause on us. And we have been able to reflect. We've been able to spend time, precious time with our families that we would not have ordinarily been able to do. And I've heard from so many that they are grateful for that. And I think that if we can, instead of hoping that we get back to normal, if we can continue on this path moving forward and create collectively the future that we want to have, the future that we want to see, one that is safer, more peaceful, united, I think that there's the temptation to think that it comes from the top, the top down, that somebody's going to make this decision for us and that we're just going to follow along, when we're realizing that it is literally our choice as human beings. We are the change. When we decide to be the change that we want to see, then it will happen. We're not waiting for anything. The time has come right now. And that's what I'm really, really excited about, because I think what we were doing wasn't working going into the COVID lockdown. And we realized that. And so this is a wonderful rebalancing time. And I think we're going to come out of this stronger, more united, and also more grateful for what really matters in life. And as you said, Angelina, it's family and peace and unity.
Thank you, Scarlett. Bruce, would you like to share?
Yes, I want to say that that's a wonderful answer, because it really reflects what's going on in our planet right now. We're facing the mass extinction, the sixth one. People haven't really heard that much about it, but I think you should, because this extinction event isn't 1,000 years from now. It's within this century and within decades. And the significance of this mass extinction, which has happened 5 times in the history of this planet, it generally wipes out up to 90% of life and it starts all over again. And we are now precipitating the sixth mass extinction. And I say we because science has recognized human behavior is undermining the web of life. It's undermining the structure of family. It's undermining the structure of community. It's not in harmony. And so we're facing this extinction. And the way out of it is we have to change our behavior, because our behavior is causing a problem. And it's interesting because we're facing, and I'm going to use the word, and I want people to hold off for a second, the word apocalypse. Because in the biblical sense, it's been modified to mean an end of all and a destruction and, visions of that kind of stuff like that. No, the real meaning of the word apocalypse is to have a lifting of the veils, to see more clearly. That's what an apocalypse is all about. And I say, well, this is what's happening because we're facing this evolution. The evolution is civilization has to change or civilization ends. And that's where we're at this point right now. And the upheaval that's going on is breaking up the old structure. And the old structure, of course, is the problem that's behind this mass extinction. So we look back at this time of the year to do what? Well, if we want to move forward, we don't want to carry the baggage and the stuff that doesn't work. And so the chaos that we've been experiencing is lifting to the surface how civilization is not in harmony with itself, with nature. And this is a waking up call. And it says, if you want to move forward, first you look backwards and say, the good stuff that we like, we want to carry that and carry that into the future. But the stuff that's not working right, we got to bring that to our attention now so we don't carry that into the future. So the awakening, we have, so many different things. We have especially racial and religious upheaval, economic upheaval, environmental upheaval, and all this. And it's basically what? Bringing to the surface what's not working here, because we have to fix that if we're going to move into the future. So looking back is a very, very important part. And at this time of the year, the solstice and what's unfolding in the world, it's time for us to pause. COVID is making you take a pause, even if you didn't want to pause and stop. And let's start reflecting on, if we're going from here forward, we don't want to take the negative stuff that has come up in the past with us. And the only way not to take it with us is bring it up to the surface and say, this is not what we want. So we have Me Too, and we have Black Lives Matter, and we have environmental greens, and these are the future. And this is what people are saying, look, these are what we want to carry with us, not the tragic chaos that we're experiencing right now. So for me, it's a very exciting time. It's an exciting time because we are on the knife edge of an evolutionary upheaval, and the chaos is part of it. And so my point of view, just to make it a little shorter, is basically recognize this. The chaos is not bad like we say it is. That chaos is mind-changing. It's life-changing. And it says we must change, because if we keep it the same way it is, extinctions in decades. And so I look at it and say, yeah, this is good. A lifting of the veil. Let's see what's wrong, because we want to make a better future. We want to make a future. The whole future of civilization and nature is community. And so the idea is we have lost community, and now COVID is sort of like first making the first community come back together, hopefully, and that is the family, which has been broken up. And now once we start that, then it's families that come together. Community is our destination. And so we must let go of the old beliefs that have broken us up, and a Darwinian fighting for competition, and start to recognize we're all working together. And this is what Uplift is all about. The whole story of Uplift is to take us from this old pattern and create a sustainable future for all of us. And we're in it right now. So it's exciting. Don't worry about the old stuff. Focus on where we're going. And that's our destination. Thank you for asking that, Angela. And Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Bhavani, would you like to share on that question, that first one?
Well, I don't know if I have much to add to what Bruce has said and Scarlett has shared. It's so beautiful. I guess I would just briefly say that what we bring from ourselves into the world is really our greatest gifts that we have to offer. And we have choice to make around that, to choose, even if the glass is half full or half empty, how we see the world is what we see in the world. How we see is what we see. And if we look with compassion and love and strength, and we look, as Bruce said, towards a future that works for everyone, a future with abundance for all, a future where we can feed the whole world, a future where we can live together in love and respect with dignity, then we can co-create a world that works for everyone. And we can take the best of ourselves and the best of our world as we take each step forward in our lives in peace and love and respect and compassion, with gratitude and forgiveness.
Thank you so much. That is such an essential part of it, like what we're actually seeing, like what lens are we looking through into the world. And I think that was, for me personally, that was part of the great lesson of 2020, because it was so easy to fall down the rabbit hole of fear and chaos and, oh my God, masks and what's going to happen and friends and family getting sick and all of that. And then, of course, you can just completely change that around. You can just watch yourself in those moments of wavering. And yeah, that was a great lesson. Just like, what lens am I wearing at that moment, in each moment, right now. So thank you for sharing that. Kristen, would you like to share some thoughts on this?
Sure. What an amazing question. I think when I look back before the COVID times, I felt that the world was becoming ever more extroverted, and society was so focused on materialism. And suddenly, this whole period of 2020 has pulled us deep, deep into the inner world, into the inner landscape. And whenever we go deep within and we take that time and space to be present to what is within, there is naturally going to be a lot of pain and fear and challenge, and then also so much beauty as we go in and we remember our connection to our source and to our spirit selves. So this has been a very important time of just listening and being in that inner dialogue. And when I think about the meaning of life, I've done a lot of thinking about the meaning of life. I think when you ask most people the question, what is the meaning of life? So many people will say, oh, happiness, to be happy. And as I've thought deeply into this question, I often feel these days that the meaning of life is not about achieving happiness, but it's more about learning to become a better navigator, a more adept navigator. So looking through this lens of the navigator, I feel like this 2020 year has allowed us to go within. Becoming a better navigator starts with going within. And when you know yourself and when you begin to have that deep inner dialogue, you can then start to apply who you are and the knowledge of who you are to every aspect of life, anything that could come up. So I feel like during this time, we've actually empowered our connection to our inner navigator. And I think that we have been preparing ourselves, like Bruce was talking about, the great challenges to come. I think we needed this time so that we could go into the next decades and be more practiced navigators so that we can truly be present to whatever comes. There will be great challenges. There will also be great connection and great joy. So just, I'm grateful. Gratitude is so important each and every day, taking us into the future, that we are grateful for what we have. There's always something to be grateful for. So thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Kristen. So true, gratitude. It really just changes the whole sort of your perspective when you start giving thanks. So thank you for that. We'll move on to our next question. This is from Grace from London. Hi, Grace, if you're watching, hi. I have so much trauma from my past. How do I even begin to let go of the past trauma and embrace a positive future? Scarlett, would you like to begin on that one? Because you're pretty much a perfect person to start with on this one. Maybe you can share as well how you dealt with it.
Grace, yes, I understand about trauma. My 6-year-old son was murdered in his first grade classroom alongside 19 of his classmates and 6 educators in one of the worst mass murders in US history. So I had previous traumas as well. So that was just one more layered on top. So I understand about trauma. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to face your trauma and not resist or avoid it or run from it, but literally to be present with it so that you can thoughtfully respond to it. And my son left a message on our kitchen chalkboard that this panel all knows. I talk about it all the time. He wrote 3 words before he died: nurturing, healing, love. And that forms a literal formula to be able, that can lead us to thoughtfully responding with love, regardless of what's happening in our lives or what has happened to us. It takes courage to be present in the moment, to be able to face what's happening, what has happened. And then, as Kristen so beautifully said, that strengthens you. And science tells us that courage is like a muscle that can be strengthened with practice. That strengthens you to be able to thoughtfully respond with gratitude. Not necessarily for the pain, but for what it's taught you, who you've become, what you have in your life. As Kristen said, and I totally agree, there's always something to be grateful for. And that also neuroscientifically strengthens you then to consider forgiveness. And forgiveness is something I think is going to have to be a theme going forward for unity in our world. We don't know a whole lot about forgiveness from what I've seen, but I will tell you that that when kids learn forgiveness, they love it. They practice it every day. They call it a superpower. They say that it feels so good to let it go. And ultimately, as Bhavani said, everything that I'm talking about is a choice when you have the awareness and you're dedicated to practicing. And that then strengthens you to be able to step outside of, of who you are. Instead of focusing internally on your pain and suffering that a lot of us have, it enables you to look outward. It takes courage, but to look outside yourself and to maybe see someone else that needs help through empathy. Empathy helps us connect with other people. And then there is an action component to compassion where you actively give love, help another person, serve a need. And science actually tells us that all of the nurturing love that we give out comes back to us in healing love. So it's the courage to be present, to face where we are, not to resist and avoid and run from it. And then the choice to look for something to be grateful for. There's always something to be grateful for. And that strengthens us to consider forgiveness. Forgiveness is the ability to take your personal power back, not give it to the person or thing that hurts you, to allow them to have power over you. And then that enables you to look outside yourself and your own pain to help someone else. And when you've done that, you have chosen love. You've chosen love for yourself and you've chosen love for others. That's what I practice every single day, and it works. Thank you for that beautiful question.
Thank you, Scarlett. Kristen, we'll go to you for this. Would you like to share something to Grace from London?
Sure. Scarlett, that was amazing. I feel like you covered everything that I was feeling in my heart so beautifully. I would agree with what you shared, Scarlett. I feel that when I have gone through trauma in my own life, the point where I begin to feel like I can kind of come out of that enclosement. Trauma feels like it's like very, it's like a shrinking feeling when you're in it, right? It wants to just close. And when I finally start to open and release, it almost always comes when I go into a space of serving. When I have the courage to listen within and remember what my unique offering is in this life. Maybe we have multiple unique offerings. I think we do. We're full palette beings, full spectrum beings. But when I tune into what can I offer and I begin to just challenge myself to actually go give back to the world through my unique voice, that's when I start to have this expansion. And there have been times when I look back, I know we've each had our unique experiences of suffering and our unique experience of trauma. Each one holds a very different pattern of pain. But I know that it's a universal feeling. I truly feel that when we remember that we are connected to the whole and that we can do just something very little and it will make a difference to another. And then we can continue to practice that. It's just amazing how quickly it begins to transform our lives. For instance, I found a local animal shelter in the area where I live in upstate New York. And over the past couple of years, on Sundays, I've started to go and walk shelter dogs who live mostly in an animal shelter. And a lot of them have been there for a couple of years, a long time. And just taking these dogs out for a hike every Sunday and spending a few hours giving back, no matter what I have been going through in my life, whatever pain, every single time, after those few hours spent with a shelter dog, I feel happy. I feel in a space of possibility, and I feel empowered again to do something in the world. So that's what I would share. Just see if you can find some little thing each day that you can contribute.
Thank you, Kristen. Wow, this is a great discussion. I'm loving this one. Thank you so much. Bhavani, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Like someone who's really, what do we do if we have so much trauma in our lives? How can we move forward into and embrace a positive future? Do you have any thoughts to share?
Yeah, thank you, Chris and Scarlett and Kristen. Your sharings are so profound and beautiful. And, as Kristen said, we're all very different. We all have a different experience of our trauma and our pain. And likewise, different things work for for each of us differently. For me, like when I went through a very, very dark period in my life of stimulated trauma, depressions, being suicidal, the thing that really worked for me was gratitude. It was, let me just find one thing I'm grateful for right now, just one thing right now. And it could be anything. We have so many things to be grateful for. So it wasn't a big thing, and it wasn't about, let me take care of the rest of my life. It was, let me take care of this moment. Let me just take care of this moment. And whether it was this, that I'm healthy, or that I have hot water in my house, or that I can walk. It was so many things. It's just once I would find one thing that I was grateful for, I would find another, and then another, and then another, and then it was a cascade. And it literally changed my entire experience of my own life and how I was feeling. And that's something I continue to do to this day, because it's such a beautiful, uplifting, energizing experience. And I also felt that I didn't actually call it being in service, as Kristen was saying, but I would find that when I would then get out of my house and just connect with other people, whether just seeing them on the street or in a store, in a grocery store, just saying hello or smiling at someone, or just literally thinking about, I wonder how it is for that person. It would just take me out of my story, and I could just grow up, because generally those traumas come from, a lot of them, from very young ages, when we've been really hurt as little babies and children. And I just want to say that sometimes to keep it, just to kind of put that all in one thing, like to just try to deal with this moment. Because the thing is, we're like, how am I going to be happy the rest of my life? What am I going to do next year, tomorrow, next week? And we overload ourselves with thoughts about the future, when actually we're just right now, we just need to take care of ourselves. And those are certain ways that really worked for me. What I did was actually made a list for myself of the things that really worked for me. Gratitude was one, going outside, saying hello or smiling at people, or really looking at the checkout person, and when they ask, how are you? And just actually saying, thank you for asking, how are you? And actually that connection was beautiful, so beautiful, to see how someone would just smile because you asked them how were they, and they knew that you meant it. And it was really beautiful. I also felt that taking a walk, taking a bath, I made a little list for myself. And when I was so freaked out, being so upset, I would literally go to my list and I would say, okay, choose one right now. And I would do it. And it was my lifeline. And I think that when we actually make a decision, sorry, just if I don't mean to be talking too much, but I actually made a decision that I didn't want to be unhappy anymore. I think that was the first step. I don't want to be unhappy. I want to be happy. And that I reminded myself, no, when I started feeling miserable and depressed, I would be like, no, I'm not choosing this. I'm choosing to be happy. What can I do right now, just for this moment, to make myself feel better? And those are the things that really, really worked for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavani. That's profound. We have a guest who wants to join us live, one of our global community. So Sophie Laveau is going to be spotlighted now, and she's going to ask a question. We're going to get to meet Sophie.
Namaste, everyone.
Hi,
Thank
Sophie.
you.
Can you share where you're from, actually?
I'm from Mauritius Island.
Wow, you're currently in the Mauritius Islands?
Yes,
Wonderful.
I'm from there
Welcome.
for 7 generations. Yes, thank you. So my question is about trauma. I was thinking, can we compare trauma to like, I've got a challenge now because I had written my question, but my question is gone. I'm live, so I'm trying to reformulate it. So can we talk about it as our inner circuit being cut? Sometimes I feel like when I have trauma, I don't have that good connection as we were talking before, like all our cells are shining in the world. And it's difficult to go forward because you feel like you are not whole in your body. Your mind is disconnected from your physical body and your heart. And even in the physical body itself, you kind of maybe don't feel your arm is helping you to go forward. You feel weakened, and doing that connection sometimes feel weird before going forward. And then you have that trauma first with the body, and then connecting, when you finish connect the body, connecting with your outside world. So could you talk about this, how the process and what are your insights?
Thank you, Sophie. I'm going to circle that around again, and we'll ask the question: can we say that trauma causes our inner circuit of energy to break or have unconnected parts in the body that makes it difficult for us to work fully with the body, mind, and heart when the body itself is out of balance? Bruce, would you like to share?
Well, I would love to talk about it because this affects everybody in the world that I know. We've all been through kinds of trauma. And so there were about 3 different things I was thinking about how to address it. Number one, a very important part of this is the old story of don't kill the messenger over the message. And what that means is somebody's created some event and it traumatized your life, and you had some learning experience. But if you keep going back and replaying the lesson, that doesn't help anybody. It's like, what was the message you walked away with? Because that's what you really want to deal with, not dealing with any of the action that led to that message. So yes, trauma results from some events that occurred, but there's a conclusion to that. And then once you do this, it's really important to let go of the messenger. The messenger was just bringing the show in, and yet we get caught up in all the messengers and reflect on that happened and that happened. I'm going, no, you're focusing on the messenger, but what did you come away with? That was really what the most important part of that is. And then number 2, which I really think is a great story that applies right here, and everyone should really take a look at. It's an older movie. It's called Regarding Henry. And Harrison Ford is a lawyer, and he goes into a convenience store to get something, and there's a holdup going on, and then he gets shot in the head. And he has amnesia. When he wakes up, he doesn't know who he is or what's going on. So after he comes out of the hospital and tries to figure it out, he goes back to try to review his life. And he looked at his desk with all the work he was doing and his life and what was going on. He looked at it and reviewed all that. And he just said, I don't want that. He was had amnesia. He's got a blank slate. And what did he do? He said, I want to make a life based on this. And he just started to put up a new vision. I want this. Now, I don't want you to go get hit in the head and get amnesia, but I want you to recognize how important that was, because it's real. Whatever happened in the past, somebody might just now snap their fingers and all of a sudden you'll come out of some hypnotic trance and realize that wasn't even real, because I don't know what happened in the past, what was real. And so basically what I'm trying to suggest is that's easy to walk away with a message. What did you learn? So you don't want to repeat this kind of stuff, but then let go of everything and say, but where do I want to go from here? Just as if I had amnesia. Where do I want to go from here? Not going back and reviewing this again. That's a waste of your time. And every time you go back and review it, it just makes it more ingrained in your life. And so, if you can get amnesia without having a problem, that would be really cool, because then you can wake up and say, today, what do I want? And all of a sudden, now you're moving forward instead of living in the past. And the last thing about trauma and letting go, and I'm not a religious person, so I'm not a Christian study guy or nothing like that. But some of the words that are attributed to Jesus, especially on the day he was crucified, one of the things that was written, he would say, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." And why I want to emphasize very quickly, so if I can, is our behavior is controlled by our mind. We have two minds: the conscious mind connected to your personal identity, your spirituality. That's conscious mind. That's like manual control of your life. And the subconscious mind, which has got programs, which include all the trauma, which are programs in there, okay? And it turns out science has recognized that our life is not coming from who we really are, our spiritual selves, our creation, who we are. 95% of our life is coming from the programs. And so when people have done things wrong, did they do something wrong because their spirit wanted to do something wrong? Or did they do something wrong because we now know 95% of our life is coming from the programs? And programs include the trauma. And whoever may have traumatized you obviously went through some kind of trauma to get into that program that they could pass it on to you. And so basically, I had to learn this myself, is let go of those things. Was that person really doing it, or was their program doing it? 95% of the time, chances, of course, was the program. So can I blame them as a spiritual entity? I realize no. I don't have to go love them. I don't have to go give them gifts or anything like that. But basically, forgive them. They didn't know what the hell they were doing, and you got caught up in the play. And now you got caught up in this behavior, and that was from some message that you were just supposed to learn the message and let go of the messenger. And when you do that, you got a free, clean slate. Where do you want to go from here? Not go back every day and visit this. That's gone. You could, as I said, if you just woke up from some hypnotic trance and they said, "Oh, that was a dream," look at it. That's possibly all it was in the first place as well. And the idea is, it's time for us to wake up and plan a future rather than replaying those disempowering and self-sabotaging and limiting programs, messages, and dealing with the messengers of those history. Again, last thing, if you just woke up at this moment with amnesia and said, "Who am I?" Well, just like Harrison Ford regarding Henry, you can write who you want to be. And that was the end of the story, how he said, "No, this is not the life I want. This is the life I want." And he created a whole new life for him and his family. That, to me, is an important movie message, but it deals exactly what we're talking about right here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bruce. Would any of the other presenters like to share on this one to Sophie?
I'd like to say something about this.
Kristen, please.
Thank you. I was actually just writing about this theme the other day when Sophie was talking about the disconnection of all the parts and feeling like the parts are not communicating. And I was looking in the macro sense at our planet and seeing that a lot of the trauma that I experience, that I notice on our planet, I feel is coming from that disconnection of parts, that we have forgotten that we are a part of a larger planetary body of Gaia, and that we are important parts that have stopped talking to each other and collectively communicating. And I was writing and thinking into that. How can we begin to, first of all, remember that we are part of a whole, and that we are parts that need to work with each other and dialogue and communicate. And as we start to listen, and as the parts begin to communicate, and also remember that we're working in concert with the divine director, I would say, or the the conductor, right? I think in musical terms, like Gaia is the conductor. How can we better synchronize with both the orchestra, all of the parts, and listen and watch the conductor who's giving us clues and information all the time about how we can better heal and how we can better work together. And as we look within ourselves, I think we can take that to the micro level or in our own bodies. We are the conductor of this orchestra. Have we forgotten that all of these billions, trillions, I think, Bruce, right? Trillions of cells, trillions of cells have made some agreement to work together. And when we feel that disconnection, I think it's often the same thing, that we have forgotten that we are a living collective. And that it begins with the conductor choosing to look at the score again and listen to the music and feel the passion, and then give gratitude to all the cells who have agreed to be here working in concert. So just often, I think, to reorganize ourselves and remember the parts and how they work together, it just takes this pause, like, you know, that quiet before the orchestra plays. It's just, and then consciously remember you're the conductor and raise your baton and feel how the cells are agreeing to work with you. And I think immediately this can start to reset. I know for me, this starts to reset my system. Every single time I sit down to eat, I hold my hands over my food and I realize I'm about to take this life force energy in. And I talk to the cells and I say, will you work with me so that I can bring this nurturing energy and into my being, and that we can all work together. So hopefully that adds another musical perspective.
Thank you, Kristen. And thank you, Sophie, for joining us. We really appreciate you coming live with us in this circle. Thank you. Wow, amazing conversations. I'm loving this looking forward, looking backwards, looking forwards. And here we are in the still point of the solstice weekend. I'm loving it. So we have a great question just came in from Justin from Philadelphia. This is a very potent question. I am 18 years of age, and this COVID year has honestly been the most terrible year of my life. Many of my friends have lost hope for the future. How do I keep a positive outlook when the world continues to crumble around me? Wow. I have an 18-year-old daughter as well, and I've had a lot of conversations with many of her friends, and I'm seeing this rampant, if you like, loss. Like there's this sense of tension that's happening within the youth right now. And and as we all probably know, depression has gone up so radically high within youth at the moment. It's beyond, the numbers are just literally vertical. So yeah, this is a great question from Justin from Philadelphia. Scarlett, I'd love to start with you on this one. You work a lot with youth for many, many years now. What's your sense? What can you share to Justin?
I'll tell you what I thought off the top of my head. It's important to understand that we all have a negative bias that's woven into our DNA. So we focus on the negative as human beings. We do that to keep ourselves safe. So if you go back to caveman times, it's the caveman that was scanning for a saber-toothed tiger that was going to live to pass down his genes. And so because we do that, everyone on the face of the planet almost has heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And all of the negative outcomes when you have PTSD, and you see there's a lot of science on it, and a lot of people know that term, but very few people know the term PTG, post-traumatic growth. That is when you grow through difficulty. Think about how we're shaped and molded as human beings, really, how we're shaped and molded. It's through difficulty, roadblocks, challenges, even pain and suffering, that and our thoughtful response to those things in our lives, that's what strengthens us, that's what shapes and molds us. And there is actually a technical term for that, and it's called post-traumatic growth. It is when we grow through trauma. And this is a term, I didn't make it up. You can go online and you can look at all the science behind it, and it literally tells you the benefits of what happens when you face difficulty and you go through it. You strengthen relationships, you weed out negative ones, you gain a new perspective, you may deepen your spirituality, you may even gain a purpose in your life. That's post-traumatic growth. And I know that the youth are having a really hard time. We do focus on the negative. We're in a crisis of connection. We all are the same as human beings in the want and need to love and be loved. Every single one of us on the planet has this need for connection. And I think a lot of the suffering that we're seeing now can be boiled down, not to make it too simple, but simplistic, but to lack of connection. And I think, as Bhavani said earlier, when you have some awarenesses, and I think I'm hearing a lot of awareness on this call from the questions and the answers. When you have some awarenesses, then it becomes a choice that you make. You're going to make the choice to have the courage to face the difficulty that's in your life, be present, to reach out to other people, understanding that you need the connection, they need the connection, and also that there is this opportunity to grow through the difficulty that we're seeing in our lives. Post-traumatic growth, I encourage everybody to go and look at it. It gives us a different perspective on what's happening here.
Thank you, Scarlett. That was great. I had never heard that term as well. So thank you for enlightening us on that term. Bhavani, would you like to share something and to Justin and the young generation?
Hey, Justin. Thanks for your amazing question. I just want to say, imagine that it's really tough right now to be a teenager, especially around 18, when you've been preparing your life to take off at this moment, to finish high school and whatever country you're in, you might call it something else, but to just enter your adulthood, to enter into a world where you have your life, your autonomy, your freedom, and then to have everything just kind of pulled out from under you and not know what's going to happen. It must be really devastating. And I feel for the younger generations. I feel for everyone who feels that way. And I know it must be particularly difficult for the young people, especially around 18, at that turning point in your life. And so I just want to, first of all, recognize, I think it's good to recognize what is actually being experienced, what is actually happening, and not to think that it should be different, because that's where we really swirl ourselves into a hole. It should be different, and then we get into that argument within ourselves and and with life, and arguing with life, we usually lose. Well, we always lose when we argue with life, which is a saying of Byron Katie. And I want to say that I want to, sort of emphasize what Scarlett also said, and I couldn't agree more with what she said. I think that all of us, we grow through difficult times. We grow through challenges and pain. A friend of mine, he talks about how hearts are, one of the features of hearts is that they break. And I'm sure most of us, or not all of us, have experienced a broken heart. And I've experienced that plenty of times. And my experience of that is that every time my heart breaks, it expands. That's like post-traumatic growth. it expands. It actually feels like it's capable of even experiencing more love. Every time it gets hurt, every time there's pain, every time there's a roadblock or something, things didn't go the way I wanted to or wanted them to, or how I thought they would happen, we grow. And I did just mention Byron Katie too. One of the things I learned from her was, why was this the best thing that could happen to me? Or what did I learn from that is another way of framing that. So like if we tend to, as Scarlett said, we have a negative bias and we tend to go over and over the things that we think are wrong or bad or not working. And we tend to the friends and reinforce that with each other and come to collective agreement. And that just can take us down deeper into this place of ennui and resignation and nothing good is ever going to happen. And, you know, like I said, and like Scarlett reiterated, we have a choice. We are not victims of that. Victimhood is choiceless. Heroes are with choice, courageous. It takes courage to be a hero. And it takes courage. It takes us to be a hero these days to live in this world. We have to be heroic because there's so much happening that can just push us down into that victim space. And that's a choice we have to make in ourselves. So regardless of the fact that everything has changed, and like I said when we started, for your generation of like young adults, everything has changed. And the world you thought you were walking into isn't there anymore. That's the truth. It's not. But we also have this opportunity to co-create a world that really works for everyone. So it's for us to look in ourselves, what can I bring to this moment? And let us again come back to this moment, which informs the next moment. Always this moment informs the next moment. We're not going to plan out the whole future. Who knows what's going to happen? But this moment will inform the next moment. So what can I bring to this moment? How can I look at my traumas? How can I look at the pain and look at all the loss and grief that I feel about my life and say, well, what did I learn from that? What is my post-traumatic growth, as Scarlett was saying? Because it will be there for you. It will be there for all of us when we look for it. It's what it has given us that we can take with us. And this is the hero's journey. And this is really what we're all on right now, a hero's journey, to rise to the occasion, to take each step in strength and peace and presence and bring love to this moment, to this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavani. Kristen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question from Justin from Philadelphia.
Well, Justin, just sending you so much love and support. I've thought a lot about what it must be like to be 18 years old, 19, 20, recently especially. That is the time where our dreamer is most alive. I think those are the years where we get so excited to explore our dreams and then feel like we can go out into the world and see what's possible. And at the age of 18, it's natural to feel like everything is possible. And for the first time in my lifetime, and I think in a very long time, we've come to this year where if you're 18 years old, you cannot just do whatever, you cannot manifest whatever you want externally in the world. But like Bhavani and Scarlett were sharing, you've had this time to go within, and I am sure there is a lot of growth that has come out of this time that probably you just cannot see yet. And I do a lot of talking with I would call him my soul son, who's 17, almost 18. And I'm always telling him, zoom out, zoom out. When you zoom out, we can suddenly see that, oh, maybe there was a reason why I had to go through this. There was a reason why I had to gain this new knowledge about the world, about the beauty of connection, about who I want to be, so that in the future, I can actually go and live my purpose with a greater depth and intention. A lot of times when we can't have access to something, later when we do have access, we move forward with a greater understanding of our mission, and we follow a more serious path around that mission. So I would say zoom out. When you look back in life, so many of the times, I see this in my life, so many of the times where I felt stuck or where things happened that felt so wrong at the time or so traumatic or so difficult. Now when I look back, I realize every single one of those experiences had to happen to bring me to exactly where I am today and help me build my resilience so that I could grow in the ways that I needed to grow to become who I am. So just trust that when you look back, it will make sense. And just feel that inner dreamer in you, and just don't push it in. Just allow it to still dream. Allow yourself to still dream. And there will be a time where you can actually just really allow the dreamer to fly again in the real world. So
Thank you, Kristen. I love that. Allow your inner dreamer to just come out and flow. I think for all of us, really, it's really important for this next chapter, this next decade we're moving into, just allow our inner dreamers to keep going and keep flowing. So thank you for bringing me back to that one. We're getting a lot of questions coming in. This is a very stimulating discussion, and wow, there's some our Facebook is getting busy now. So I'd like to share a question from Latuana Dunn from Ohio. With all that is going on in the world, how do we control these feelings of being attacked? Bruce, would you like to start this one?
Well, yeah, it's a strange time, and it's actually connected to the same question that Justin just had as well. And the simple reality is, the world is going through this chaos right now. People are fraught with all kinds of problems, whether they're going to get a job, they have any money, whether they're going to stay alive, they got health care. I mean, it's overwhelming. So it's a breakdown of the system. But what's important about a breakdown of the system is that it offers the opportunity to build another system. And what we're seeing is finally, I feel it because I'm so excited, is that the very young people, 18, 19, 20, are going to vote. And they're changing. What they're changing is who represents them. Now, the four young women who really came into the Democratic Party and threw a monkey wrench into the system represents these young people. And more of these representatives are going to be voted in, so that the younger generation actually has a new path to follow and not follow in the old one. The old one doesn't work and it's not coming back. We have a new world in front of us. And it's going to be really shaped by the young people. The older people, that's a generation that has to move on now because the new generation has the struggles for the future with a vision. And I feel very excited about that, because if we stop playing the game of protection and threats and all that and say, look, why don't we come together? Why don't we come together, especially the young people? Because the whole system is based on representation. The young people outnumber the older people. And so there's this opportunity for an evolution, an upheaval. And so I see the movements of young people moving away from the threats and saying, let's build, what do we want to build? What do we want? The young people, what do we want? Because the voting in of representatives from the young people changes the policies and the politics. So isolating yourself and going, oh, I'm so afraid I'm just going to hide in here, is actually not very helpful for the evolution. The evolution is to go out and find kindred spirits that are doing exactly what you want to do, and be out there, make a voice out there, make a change out there, because passivity is a loss. You sit there and be passive, you have no control of anything. And yet action is required at this time. And the action, I'm not anticipating it from the older generation, except for, hey, there are a lot of teachers out there in the older generation could say, hey, this is what we did wrong. So there's a new opportunity coming for you right here. But it's time for the younger generation to put, its feeling and its heart and its consciousness into creating a new world. And that means participating. And that means coming into a group. And it's really wonderful, because if you sit there in all isolation, what are the kinds of visions that go through your head? The reason why you're in isolation is that you don't want to be out there at some point. And then the stories they're not helpful. But if you go out and start getting in a community of action, Greta Thunberg, I mean, she's changed the world. For this young lady here has changed the world by action. And there's so many of people out there that are young are saying, I don't want to be a victim in this place. I want to participate. And now is the time, because in the evolutionary upheaval, it's the younger people who are going to make the more representative actions in government. And all of a sudden I say, well, don't make actions from the negative side, because that doesn't help anybody. We start creating a better world by creating a more positive vision of everyone coming together, a Holman community and all that. And I really think that the younger generation is finally waking up to the fact that they have power. They have power as a community. But if you sit alone and be afraid of what's going on, that doesn't feed evolution. So my suggestion is, it's time to go out there and make new friends. Join actions that really support the kind of ideas you want. Be around them. Why? Boy, that's a new social structure. And that social structure is going to create great harmony. And so the destination is not to sit there and behind the wall, but it's to go out and participate, because this evolution is participatory. We either make it or we don't. And that means then each of us is a creator of this world. And if you pull yourself out, you lost your power, and you lost the ability to help a new world be coming, to us now as we need it, facing the issues that we have in the world at this point. So being afraid, hiding, waiting it's time to get out. And the social aspect of that is going to be so healthy, because you're going to find community, and community is where health is. And so my suggestion is, where are those people that are talking about things that you want to be involved with? Go out there, because then you are a participant in a community, and health is in community. And that's what we need right now.
Thank you, Bruce. Scarlett, would you like to share some thoughts on this question? I'll read it one more time. With all that is going on in the world, how do we control these feelings of being attacked? That's from Latonya Dunn from Ohio.
Okay, thank you so much for that question, because I feel like we all feel a little bit like we're being attacked, because there is so much disconnection and isolation. I agree with everything that Bruce said. He talked about victimization, and when we're victims, we have no control. And Bruce was saying you have to be active, because if you're not active, and I call that thoughtfully responding, being present in the moment and thoughtfully responding to what's going on. If you're not doing that, then you're inactive. And when you're inactive, you victimize yourself. You give your personal power away. And that does not feel good to anyone. So I completely agree with being present and thoughtfully responding. That takes a lot of courage, so much courage. And we need to practice our courage, practice through taking brave breaths, deep breathing, being present. I practice brave poses. I have a Wonder Woman pose. I literally stand with my feet spread and my arms out and my chin up, because it helps me feel strong. I talk about, when I talk about courage, I think about my son, Jesse, who stood up to the shooter who came into his first grade classroom. And when the shooter's gun jammed, he literally called to his friends and told them to run, and is credited with saving 9 of his friends' lives. He's actually on the short list for the Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor, for his act of courage. Now, he was 6 years old. I talk about that courage because that is the exact same courage that we all have within us. All of it, all of you listeners, all of us, we all have this capacity for courage. We have to be present. We have to be aware of it. We have to make the choice to be in life and thoughtfully responding, as Bruce was saying. The other thing I just wanted to add is that between 85, I think I've read 85 and 97% of what we fear each day, Bruce, I may have even gotten this out of your book, doesn't happen. But that's because of our negative bias. We're trying to keep ourselves safe, so we're going over these scenarios, but the majority of what we fear every day never happens. And so I just wanted to say that because it's a very fearful time, and it's so easy to get caught in that swirling of news, the news cycle, and the negativity and everything that's going on. And I think it's just a good idea to take a step back and remind ourselves that there's a lot of things that are being reported that are never going to happen. Here's the problem. Our bodies don't know that what's up here isn't happening in the moment. And so we get some negative repercussions from those thoughts, and we have control over our thoughts. So using gratitude, actually in the Choose Love movement, that is my organization, we use gratitude. We call it the great mind shifter. So with our negative bias, the majority of thoughts and what we're being fed right now is a lot of negativity. And here's the interesting thing. You can only focus on one thought at a time. So you're going to focus on a lower energy, negative, fearful, angry thought, or a grateful thought. As Bhavani said, there's always something to be grateful for. So I'm not saying don't be present with the difficulty, but when you're ready to shift out of that, think of something that you're grateful for. There's always something to be grateful for, and you will shift yourself away from the negativity and fear. Just a little strategy.
Thank you, Scarlett. Loving the passion here. This is amazing. So we're going to move along because we have quite a few questions coming in. The next question is from Reverend Jeffrey. It's a very uplift question. I love this one. Is Loveolution the solution moving forward? Is Loveolution the solution moving forward? I'd like to start with Bhavani. Would you like to share some thoughts on that one?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Reverend Jeffrey, is it?
Yes, Reverend Jeffrey.
Yes, Reverend Jeffrey. Well, it's really interesting. What a beautiful question. Scarlett's movement is the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement, and UPLIFT, our UPLIFT global community is love in action. So I would have to say that for sure, my evolution is all about love. And I feel like what really matters in this world? Only really love. I have sat with many people when they've been dying. And when you speak with people who are dying, the only thing they talk about is love. And if we actually look at what really matters to us, we talk about family. Why does family matter? Because those are the people we love so much. And this is what we're being called to now, as as we're going through this transition, this awakening, this global communal, global community, all going through this together. And what is it the most precious to us? It's love. It's love. This is also, as Scarlett said, we all want to love and be loved. This is our basic, the essence of our nature is to love and be loved. Not just loving ourselves is essential, but also in relationship with others is loving and giving and receiving love and holding love. So I definitely, all I can say is I absolutely say yes to that. That love, the evolution of love is the growth. In fact, it's interesting because Kristen was saying, why are we here? You asked that question earlier, asking this question, and I've always come to the conclusion that it's to love more, to learn about love, to actually extend love, to vibrate love. And when we just stay in this moment, oh, we can choose love. We can always be in this moment to choose love, whether it's our pets. I love that you said you walk those dogs every week. That's so beautiful. It's so loving. And what is the things we love to do the most? The things that we love. I mean, love is it. Love is the answer. Love is all we need. That's my truth. I know there was a famous doctor who wrote a book, Love is All You Need and Other Myths or something like this, a therapist. But I don't agree. For me, love is the truth. Love is the answer. Love is all we need. And love is what really matters to us. And I think that is definitely what Uplift is all about. Unity, peace, and love.
Thank you, Bhavani. Kristen, would you like to share some thoughts on the Lovevolution?
Sure. I love that term, the Lovevolution. And I couldn't agree more with what Bhavani just shared. I feel that love is the most important, mysterious, beautiful light quality for us to learn and practice and give and receive in this lifetime. Love is the antidote to the feeling of attack from the previous question. When we feel that attack of the world, no matter what the attack looks or feels like, when we go within and we start to acknowledge our sovereign beingness and that we can choose love and start to just feel that energy move up through our being, all of a sudden, any negativity or any attackers have no place in that space. Love literally transmutes shadow energy like that. I've seen this over and over and over again. When we feel that shadow in our own hearts, in our own bodies, that contraction again, and you start to meditate on love, suddenly you're connecting with the world, we're connecting with each other, we're connecting with our purpose. We are elevating our energy so that we can start to attract much higher frequency experiences and share higher frequency experiences with each other. And all of a sudden, our reality transforms. Whether we are sitting in our homes or whether we're out in the world traveling all around, love knows no bounds, right? Love is for every place, every time, every moment of our lives. And it's our choice, like Scarlett says, it is truly our choice to choose love. And as humans are so hardwired for that fight or flight, feeling the negativity, we have to remember each and every day, it is my birthright to choose love. Can I just go within myself and make that choice today, in this moment, and just take one moment at a time? But beautiful. I vote for love.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Yeah, I couldn't agree more that, I'm looking at all these, my beautiful friends here in this circle, and, each one of us on our own different pathways are all part of what I call, the Lovevolution for sure. Like and the word revolution and evolution so close. And revolution is like it's a revolution. It's like a circle. It's like a spiral going up. And then we get to this point of evolution, as Bruce so beautifully always describes. And that's, I think we are in this evolutionary, revolutionary moment of the heart of humanity opening up. And it is opening up to love, and love is the frequency. And yeah, it's grateful to be with you all on this journey of the love evolution as well. And with Uplift as well. This is our core mission, love in action. How do we take that essence of love, the passion of love that we all know? I mean, as Bhavani said, we do what we love. You know, when you're loving what you do, you're experiencing the bliss of life and all this many facets. And how do we take this love into action? And I think that's, for me, you know, what's coming up through this looking back, looking forwards, is like really looking forward is like the love in action. It's like, okay, now's our time to really take this love that we all know, and it's who we are, it's our essence, into action. And I think this great reset of 2020 is that epiphany for me personally. Wow, this is great. I'm loving this conversation. So,
Can I add one thing?
yes, please.
Okay. I'm furiously taking notes here. But I think I want to go back to the attack. Yes. Because, literally, if I look at that from my own personal experience, where my 6-year-old son literally was attacked and murdered. But I believe that the issues that we're facing, whether they're personal in diseases of despair or they're global, come from lack of love. Even, when you look at those who are attacking, it's literally from a lack of love. And I actually learned that from my 6-year-old son. When I came back to my home, I saw that message of nurturing, healing love written on our kitchen chalkboard, phonetically spelled, because he was just learning to write in 1st grade. But I knew immediately that if the young man who had been a former student of that school had simply been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. And I knew that I would be spreading that message. I believe that if we understand that, so if you could look at I think it was Jeremy that was talking about was it Jeremy that was talking about the attackers? If you could look at the source of where they're coming from as lack of love, instead of feeling angry because you're feeling attacked or being defensive, you can actually thoughtfully respond with compassion, which is what I tried to do, which gives you your personal power back, but also helps you be part of the solution and not perpetuating the problem.
Thank you, Scarlett. Well, we have time for one more question because we're getting to the end here. And this is a great question to close out. This is from Stefan from Serbia. And he's asking, what does it mean to be a hero? Bruce, I'd love to have you start this one.
I'd love not to. That's a really good question. That is a fabulous question. Do I have a fabulous answer? Not necessarily off the top of my head, but the fact is finding that there's an arrow of harmony and truth, and that no matter what's going on around the outside, if you stick to following that path against all odds and all the problems. I mean, the heroes are the ones that are being, attacked from whatever, and they move out and do this. And to me, this is a really important insight, is that the hero is the one that follows their heart, in spite of whatever the immediate circumstances that are going on, especially if they threaten that individual in following their heart. The hero is the one that says, I am brave enough to follow and be truthful, and not stand aside and watch something that's not right go on and just let it go on. That is so hard. A lot of people stand back. I don't want to get involved because of whatever personal fears. And the hero is the one that stands up and said, no, there's right and there's wrong, and I want to follow the right. And that is a brave, very brave action in today's world to be a hero, because you have to stand up and you can't hide in the shadows. Heroes don't hide. Heroes come right out in the front. And in today's world, this is what we need more of, because let's face it, there's not that many heroes around that. Well, I'm so excited about these heroes. I'm not sure that most of them are right now, but I would love to see them stand up. And I find that in the UPLIFT community, the people that are there and the people that are online right now, because you're seekers. That's why you're here. We're all looking for what can we do in this time. And the answer is be in love and step up and support love. And when you see it not really going that right way, it's really incumbent upon us is to be the hero and help guide that love, because love is health and harmony, and this is what the planet needs. The fear is disharmony, it's noise. And so who's the hero? They hear the music and the harmony, and they know this is the right step for me to be. And I'll stand up for the rights, for others, for myself, for nature. And this is what we need, people to once again be a little more brave and stop. The fear has got us all being victims. And victims are, by definition, powerless. So if you believe you're a victim, you're just acknowledging I'm powerless. And it's like, we must move through this period and shed victim and put on the attire of hero, because that's what it's going to take us to create the new civilization and the new evolution that is in front of us right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Bhavani, would you like to share some closing thoughts on that question?
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Bruce. And thank you for this question. I think we all have it in us to be heroes. I think we actually know what that is. And when we're complaining, we're a victim. When we're choosing love, we're a hero. When we're blaming other people, we're a victim. When we're taking responsibility for our own experience, we're a hero. When we allow ourselves to feel everything that we're feeling without judgment and resistance and dissociation, even though that happens sometimes, dissociation, but we're a hero that we actually recognize our own vulnerability, our own powerlessness, our own helplessness sometimes. That's also part of being a hero. Being vulnerable, asking for help, reaching out to others, joining community, sharing your pain, being able to speak out the truth of who you are. This is all very heroic to do this. And I think that like I said, we all have this, we all have that in us. We all have it in us to be a hero. And we can choose that within ourselves. It just takes an open heart and being truthful about really our experience and choosing to be a hero, choosing to be courageous. It's simply choosing not to be a victim is pretty much being a hero. That's how I see it in this world. When we see that, when we take responsibility for our own experience, taking responsibility for our own experience doesn't make that other people aren't responsible for theirs. Like if other people have hurt you or attacked your loved ones, it doesn't mean they're not accountable for their actions. But we can still be a hero in how we respond within our own experience and take responsibility for what we feel. And we'll see. And actually, when we start doing this, we actually start to feel the empowerment of that. And it does take courage. It takes courage to not follow fear, but to choose love.
Thank you, Bhavani. I love that. Just we can all be heroes. This is what this is it. I mean, where we're so conditioned in this, especially in more Western culture, this hero worship, where someone has to have this incredible superpower and we all sort of adore them. But, the simplest way of being a hero is just flowing with love and love in action. Like, I think what Kristen was, as you so beautifully said, every Sunday you go and walk the dogs. I mean, that's being a hero for me. That's like getting out there and actually doing something in your community. So yeah, wow. Scarlett, would you like to some closing words on being a hero?
I think a hero acknowledges fear. It's not that a hero doesn't feel fear. A hero acknowledges fear and yet moves forward anyway, and does the right thing even though nobody's looking, tells the truth, faces difficulty rather than resisting and avoiding it. And for me, that's what a hero is. A hero practices being courageous, because you're not going to be that way all the time, but you do your best. Is grateful, lives their lives with their cup half full rather than half empty, looks at what they have rather than what they lack, forgives, makes the choice to forgive, tries, falls back into pain and anger, and then takes a deep breath and forgives again. And a hero steps outside of their own personal pain and whatever is going on in their lives, and they look to find those in need with empathy and connection, and they actively do something like Kristen to help ease that pain. So ultimately, I've just gone through the formula. For me, that's the hero, the person that makes the choice to choose love. Maybe stumbles and falls, as we all do, but then gets back up and does it again.
Thank you, Scarlett. We've come to the end of all the questions of today's Pulse session, and we're going to end with Kristen. He's going to take us into a beautiful musical moment so we can just sit and digest this incredible session today, this amazingly dynamic session. I want to thank you all for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Chris. So this is a brand new song, and I played it on our special Uplift gathering call the other day. And then I got a request to share tonight. And as we've been going through the questions, I'm realizing, wow, this song kind of speaks to so many of the questions in musical form. I would say the first verse kind of explores the fear and what we've been going through in that contraction zone. And the second verse is about the possibility. Can we hold love in this space? And the chorus is it's a saying that I've heard a lot over the last, I think, about 5 years. I don't know where I first heard it, but I love it so much. It says, "We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for." And to me, this beautiful sentence says so much about our choice for this time. We are our own answer to all of these questions, right? When we choose to acknowledge that we hold the key within us, then everything will begin to open up. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I have a bunch of wires here. Let me make sure I don't. I have to get over to my piano station. Okay. passed me by the other day. We didn't touch, we turned away because this virus in our souls. You passed me by like we were strangers on another shore, hoping for the land to take us home. Oh, 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 we are the ones we've been waiting for. Oh, oh, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Hold tight, brothers and sisters. Hold tight to love. Remember, we are always changing, always changing. Feel the flow deep in your heart and feed it daily. It'll wash you clean again. Oh, oh, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Oh, oh, we are the ones we've been waiting for. The ones who've been waiting. When the thought of letting go starts to let you know that it's in control. So hard to find your meaning when oblivion starts to call you in. Push back from the shore, know that we are oneness, know that we are one at the source.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Profound.
Thank you.
Profound.
such an honor to share music in this space. And thank you all for your deep, deep wisdom and healing tonight. I feel like this has just been so meaningful. Such an honor to be here.
Such a beautiful way to end this incredible session. And thank you all, Bhavani, Scarlett, Bruce, Kristen. Thank you for sharing such deep heart space. And thank you, global community, for our last session of 2020. It's so wonderful to have you all join us today, and all your questions came in. So many great questions. And we very much appreciate if you can share this session with your friends and family. We'll be archiving it on the Global Days of Unity website. And please feel free, if this inspired you, to share this with your friends and family. And if you're joining for the first time and you haven't, joined our mailing list, we would love you to join our mailing list, and we can keep you updated with all the great activities. We've got some amazing things happening. Next year is going to be a great year. And tomorrow as well, we have a special extended edition this weekend for the Global Days of Unity. We have Foster and Kimberly Gamble from the Thrive movie who are hosting a special session. And the session is called Co-Creating a Unified Future. And we'll have quite some amazing luminaries joining as well. So we'd like to invite you back for another session. It'll be very similar. You'll get to ask questions and have a deep discussion, deepening the conversation, we say. Thank you all. We'll see you again.